People with too many interests often experience the world through a lens of curiosity that rarely turns off. Their minds are constantly scanning for new ideas, skills, and experiences, creating a rich inner landscape filled with possibilities. This psychological profile is frequently associated with what researchers and writers call a multipotentialite mindset, in which identity is not built around a single calling but around the freedom to explore many paths. Rather than asking, "Who am I?" in fixed terms, these individuals tend to ask, "What can I become?" again and again. This abundance of interests often begins early in life, when curiosity is rewarded and exploration feels natural. Over time, however, social expectations can clash with this internal diversity. Many cultures emphasize specialization and linear progress, subtly suggesting that maturity means narrowing one's focus. For someone with many interests, this pressure can create internal conflict, as their natural inclination to explore feels at odds with external definitions of success. Identity formation for these individuals is fluid rather than stable. They may feel deeply connected to one passion for a period, only to later shift their emotional and intellectual energy elsewhere. This does not mean their previous interests were superficial or meaningless. Instead, each interest contributes to a layered sense of self, where identity is cumulative rather than exclusive. Psychologically, this fluid identity can be both empowering and unsettling. On one hand, it allows for adaptability, resilience, and creativity. On the other, it can provoke anxiety, especially when individuals worry that their shifting interests indicate a lack of commitment or depth. This self-doubt often arises not from internal dissatisfaction, but from comparing themselves to people with more singular paths. People with many interests frequently develop strong integrative thinking skills. Because they move across domains, they naturally connect ideas that others might keep separate. This ability to synthesize knowledge from different fields can lead to innovative insights and original perspectives. Their minds are less constrained by disciplinary boundaries, which can be a powerful psychological asset. However, this integrative strength can remain invisible if the individual feels pressured to choose only one label. When asked to define themselves succinctly, they may struggle, not because they lack identity, but because their identity resists simplification. This can lead to frustration in social and professional contexts that demand clear, concise self-descriptions. Emotionally, having many interests often comes with intense enthusiasm. These individuals can experience deep joy when engaging with a new subject, sometimes described as intellectual infatuation. This emotional intensity fuels learning and creativity, but it can also lead to burnout if not balanced with rest and reflection. Another psychological feature is a heightened sensitivity to boredom. Repetition and routine can feel stifling, not due to laziness, but because novelty plays a key role in their motivation. When an environment lacks stimulation, their engagement and emotional well-being may decline, prompting them to seek new challenges. Over time, many people with numerous interests learn to redefine commitment. Instead of lifelong dedication to a single pursuit, they value commitment within seasons of life. This reframing allows them to honor their natural rhythms without viewing change as failure. Psychologically, this shift can be deeply liberating. Ultimately, the identity of someone with many interests is best understood as expansive rather than fragmented. Their psychology reflects a drive toward growth, connection, and exploration. When they learn to accept this as a legitimate way of being, their sense of self becomes more coherent, not less, grounded in curiosity as a core trait. Cognitively, people with too many interests often display rapid associative thinking. Their minds jump easily from one idea to another, creating complex mental networks that link seemingly unrelated concepts. This mental agility allows them to learn quickly and adapt to new intellectual environments with ease. This same cognitive speed, however, can make sustained focus challenging. When multiple ideas compete for attention, prioritization becomes mentally taxing. Rather than lacking discipline, these individuals are often managing an excess of cognitive stimulation, which can lead to mental fatigue and decision paralysis. Emotionally, excitement plays a central role in their engagement with the world. Interest is not just a preference but a feeling that energizes them. When they are interested, they feel alive, focused, and emotionally present. When that interest fades, motivation can drop sharply, leading to guilt or confusion. Anxiety is a common emotional companion, particularly around choice. With so many appealing options, the fear of choosing incorrectly can become overwhelming. This is often referred to as opportunity anxiety, where the pain of closing doors feels more intense than the satisfaction of opening one. People with many interests also tend to experience cycles of intense immersion followed by detachment. During immersion phases, they may invest large amounts of time and emotional energy into learning or creating. When the cycle shifts, they may abruptly disengage, which can be misinterpreted by others as inconsistency. Emotionally, they may struggle with external validation. Praise for versatility can feel shallow, while criticism for lack of focus can feel deeply personal. Over time, this can shape a heightened sensitivity to feedback, making self-worth fluctuate depending on how well their multifaceted nature is understood by others. There is often a strong emotional link between curiosity and self-esteem. When they are learning and exploring, they feel competent and alive. When circumstances limit their ability to explore, they may feel diminished, even if they are objectively successful by conventional standards. Cognitively, these individuals often excel at pattern recognition. Exposure to diverse fields trains their minds to notice similarities and underlying structures. This can enhance problem-solving abilities, especially in complex or ambiguous situations where single-discipline thinking falls short. However, emotional regulation can be challenging when enthusiasm drives decision-making. Acting primarily on interest can sometimes lead to overcommitment. Managing energy becomes crucial, as emotional excitement does not always align with realistic time and resource constraints. With self-awareness, many people with numerous interests learn to observe their cognitive and emotional patterns without judgment. This psychological insight allows them to work with their nature rather than against it, creating systems that support both exploration and emotional stability. Socially, people with too many interests often find connection through shared curiosity rather than shared identity. They may bond deeply with different groups over different topics, which can enrich their social lives but also create a sense of not fully belonging anywhere. This can lead to a subtle feeling of social displacement. Professionally, their path is rarely linear. Traditional career models, which reward specialization and predictability, may not align with their psychological needs. As a result, they may explore multiple roles, industries, or projects, building a portfolio-style career rather than a single trajectory. This professional diversity can be a strength, especially in environments that value adaptability and innovation. Their broad skill sets allow them to bridge gaps between teams and disciplines. Psychologically, this reinforces a sense of usefulness and relevance when their versatility is recognized. However, in rigid professional systems, they may feel misunderstood or undervalued. Being asked to narrow their focus can feel like an existential threat rather than a practical suggestion. This can create tension between external demands and internal authenticity. Social expectations around success can also weigh heavily. When peers appear settled in clear roles, people with many interests may question their own progress. This comparison often ignores the invisible growth happening through exploration, leading to unnecessary self-criticism. Existentially, these individuals tend to grapple with meaning in unique ways. Rather than seeking purpose in a single mission, they often find meaning in the process of learning and experiencing. Life feels purposeful when it remains open and dynamic, rather than fixed and finalized. This perspective can make them more tolerant of uncertainty. While they may struggle with choice, they are often comfortable with ambiguity in broader life questions. Not knowing exactly where they are headed can feel exciting rather than frightening when curiosity is trusted. Relationships can benefit from their psychological richness. They often bring enthusiasm, ideas, and emotional presence into conversations. At the same time, they may need partners and friends who respect their need for mental stimulation and change. Over time, many learn to design lives that reflect their psychological makeup. This may involve flexible careers, interdisciplinary projects, or intentional periods of exploration. Such designs reduce internal conflict and allow their many interests to coexist without constant tension. In the end, the psychology of people with too many interests challenges narrow definitions of success and identity. Their lives suggest that depth and breadth are not opposites, and that a meaningful life can be built not by choosing one path, but by weaving many paths into a coherent whole. One of the greatest psychological challenges for people with many interests is learning how to integrate them into a coherent life narrative. Without integration, interests can feel scattered, competing for attention and creating a sense of inner chaos. Psychologically, humans seek meaning through continuity, and when passions feel disconnected, this need can go unmet. Integration does not require merging all interests into one activity, but rather understanding how each interest contributes to personal growth, values, and worldview. Integration often begins with reflection. When individuals step back and examine why certain interests attract them, patterns begin to emerge. These patterns may involve recurring themes such as problem-solving, creativity, helping others, or understanding complex systems. Recognizing these underlying motivations helps transform a collection of unrelated interests into expressions of a deeper psychological drive, which strengthens self-understanding and emotional stability. Growth for people with many interests is rarely vertical. It is expansive. Instead of progressing upward within a single domain, they grow outward across multiple domains. This kind of growth is psychologically valid but often undervalued. When individuals accept expansive growth as legitimate, they reduce internal pressure to conform and experience greater self-compassion. This acceptance supports mental well-being and reduces chronic feelings of inadequacy. Balance is another crucial psychological task. Because curiosity is emotionally stimulating, it can easily dominate attention and energy. Without balance, exploration turns into exhaustion. Learning when to pause, consolidate knowledge, or rest becomes essential. Psychologically, this requires developing self-regulation skills that honor enthusiasm without allowing it to override physical and emotional limits. Time perception also plays a unique role in psychological balance. People with many interests often feel a sense of urgency, as if there is never enough time to explore everything they care about. This can lead to anxiety and constant rushing. Developing a long-term perspective, where interests can unfold across a lifetime, helps reduce this pressure and creates a calmer relationship with time. Another important aspect of balance is letting go without guilt. Not every interest needs to be pursued indefinitely. Psychologically healthy disengagement involves recognizing when an interest has served its purpose and allowing it to fade without interpreting this as failure. This mindset reframes endings as natural transitions rather than personal shortcomings. Integration also supports resilience. When one area of life becomes stressful or disappointing, individuals with many interests can draw emotional nourishment from others. This diversity acts as a psychological buffer, reducing the risk of identity collapse when setbacks occur. Instead of feeling lost, they can redirect energy while maintaining a stable sense of self. Meaning-making plays a central role in long-term psychological health. For people with many interests, meaning often arises from connection rather than completion. The act of learning, creating, and engaging becomes more important than achieving final mastery. This process-oriented meaning supports sustained motivation and protects against existential emptiness. As people mature, many discover that their interests begin to converse with one another. Skills learned in one domain enhance performance in another, creating unexpected synergies. Psychologically, this reinforces a sense of coherence and validates past explorations. What once felt scattered begins to feel intentional, even if it was not consciously planned. Ultimately, psychological balance for people with too many interests comes from self-trust. Trusting that curiosity is not a flaw but a guiding force allows them to design lives that feel authentic and sustainable. When integration replaces fragmentation, growth replaces pressure, and balance replaces guilt, their many interests become not a burden, but a profound source of vitality and meaning.